Film fans of YouTube, hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Josh, your Movie Apprentice, and today I continue my Ghibli watch through with Tales from Earthsea, directed by Hayao Miyazaki. This is the first film neither written or directed by either Hayao or Isao, and Goro is the son of the infamous Hayao Miyazaki. In this high fantasy setting, a runaway prince and an archmage attempt to restore the balance in this world of Earthsea. Before I get into review, if you do like what I do on this channel, then consider clicking that like button and subscribing to the channel while hitting that bell notification so you never miss any videos like this. But without further ado, let's get into the review. So, I was nervous coming into this film. It is the only Ghibli film that has a Rotten rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and while I don't hold Rotten Tomatoes as gospel like a lot of people do, the fact that this film in Ghibli is less than 50% when every other Ghibli film has at least a 70 or above, it's quite a jarring jump in quality. And with this being Goro's first directorial film, I was unsure if it's a case of he was a son of Hayao and he didn't live up to his father's expectations. That's what I thought going into this. And I was hoping, with this being a high fantasy concept in anime form, I thought this would be well up my street, and I'll be able to tell you today that there is a lot of merits to this film that a lot of people missed back then. Unfortunately, I cannot tell you that because this was a bland film for an epic fantasy. For one, let's talk about the animation. The animation is very inconsistent. For every gorgeous, well-lit, vibrant shot this film shows, as a lot of artistic detail designed into the frame, there is a bland, washed out shot, very dark and bland colours, and some very bland character and background designs with very minimal effort. Now, I could have excused this if it was a case of, if it was one location of good, where it's all vibrant, and when it's an evil location, it would be not so vibrant and all this dark, washed out, lack of detail attention. But unfortunately, it was a case of it would be vibrant one shot and bland and dull the next shot, which is very unfortunate. I don't know if the director had to work with less animators or a lot less budget than usual for a Ghibli film. I am unsure, but unfortunately it doesn't quite reach any level close to what we'd expect from a standard Ghibli movie. As for the character designs, they were bland as hell. Even the main characters didn't feel like there was anything special about the way they were designed or whether they are important or not. The only slight differences to them were made to show that they weren't just like every generic background character that we see throughout this film. The only character design that really stood out to me was our villain, but our antagonist and protagonist, and even a lot of the side protagonists, are very bland characters. There's not a whole lot about them, and every time we learn something about them and their motives and their backstories, it's all given to us in exposition. And I'm sure you know that the first rule of filmmaking is, as much as you can, show, don't tell. Because this was very much a tell, don't show sort of deal with a lot of these characters, which was quite unfortunate. Our main character had very weird narrative going through it. And yeah, he's just not the greatest character. Neither is the Archmage. He is not used to his full potential. Generally, everything high fantasy about this setting is stripped back in a big way. This is based on a book series of Earthsea. I believe there were 4 books that were mashed together to make this film, and another film that did do that whole thing of taking a franchise book series and mashing a few books together to make a film. That was The Dark Tower, and we remember how bad The Dark Tower was, right? Well, Earthsea was doing it a lot earlier than Dark Tower was, and it just doesn't work in the slightest. And it meant that there were a lot of different plot threads that were hinted at but not explored. There's this plot thread of the past relationship between dragons and humans, which is touched upon but not explored. There's this whole kingdom with a king that's touched upon but not explored. There are these berries that are basically like heroin in berry form that is touched upon, but once again not explored. It's very similar to Porco Rosso in that there's a lot more interesting elements that are hinted at but never explored, and that means what we do actually get doesn't feel as epic or entertaining. This is a 2-hour film, and the runtime was very much felt. I checked how long was left in this film a number of times, which I am very sad to admit. I hate having to do that when you're so far through a film and you're wondering how long is left. It's bad enough when you do it 2 or 3 times. There is something seriously wrong. The only character I really cared about was one of the other side characters, who is quite quiet to begin with, but you'll learn more about him later on. And there is a little twist that comes with him later on that you don't see coming, but it's not one of them subverting expectations, wow, that was brilliant, kind of, you didn't see it coming. It was more of a, okay, that just happened, kind of twist. And it just doesn't have any setup, and I really don't buy it. There is this forced in theme about the fear of death and how without death there can be no life in the truest sense. But that is forced in towards the end, and there's very little to explain a lot of the motives, especially in the early parts of this film. Honestly, I don't know how they managed to make this high fantasy setting so dull. I had a hard time getting through this, and that actually broke my heart. Coming into this, I'm thinking, my favourite trilogy of all time is the Lord of the Rings Extended Trilogy. I play a lot of D&D. I always wanted to LARP, but could never afford it, so I'm basically a massive high fantasy nerd, basically. And this film failed to deliver on any base expectations I would have from a high fantasy setting. Tales from Earthsea is just dull in many shapes and forms. It's just dull in every shape of the word, which is heartbreaking to see. I know this was Goro's big break, but I can see why not as many people liked it. While there were some pretty visuals and some occasionally very good scenes, there's just a lot of baggage in this film and a lot of stuff that doesn't live up to the standard that Ghibli does have. If this was made by a small animation studio, I feel like people would have just had it as their, yeah, this is a nice little direct-to-VHS film. This is Ghibli. These are the guys that have made Spirited Away, My Neighbor Totoro, Grave of the Fireflies, and Howl's Moving Castle, and I would dare say Whisper of the Heart, because that is still my favourite so far, spoiler alert for the list. And yeah, there's high expectations when it comes to a Ghibli film, and this film failed to meet even one of them. So overall, I'm going to have to say that Tales from Earthsea for me is a cold cup of tea. So Tales from Earthsea, have you seen it? If you have, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Am I wrong? Have I missed something? Please educate me, but in a nice way, not in a condescending way, because insulting people doesn't change anyone's minds, and we've got to be excellent to each other, especially in this day and age. Coming up next, we have Ponyo, which will actually be my 200th upload to the channel, which I think is mind-blowing. So those of you that have been around for this long, thank you so much. But until next time, my name is Josh, I have been your Movie Apprentice, and I'll see you in the next video. Hey, thank you for watching, and thank you for making it to the end of the video. While you are here, if you haven't done it yet, please feel free to drop a like and consider hitting that subscribe button for more views coming all the time. And also, while you are here, there are some other videos over there that you might want to sink your teeth into. Have a good day, guys, and do enjoy.